Jai Sri Ram, friends. Welcome to Bharat Marg. Welcome Vinay Ji. Thank you for joining with us. Welcome to Bharat Marg to you too. And friends, you know what? Today we are going to discuss something big. Okay, African Union now part of G20. American racism destroyed. We are going to see why certain countries were always kept outside the UN kind of organizations and now what it means. Now, many new countries are joining G20 and many new countries are joining organizations like BRICS and more and what it means. Okay. And also, we will discuss the Christian countries in the West always disrespected Black Africa. Okay, this is a well-known fact, and that got fixed and honored by Bharat and the Prime Minister of Bharat, Sri Narendra Modi ji. And now watch this discussion with our political analyst Vinay ji to know if UN will become, that is, the United Nations will become irrelevant soon. Comment and share. Friends, before going further, please make sure to like our video, comment on the video, share the video as much as you can. And also, friends, and also, please subscribe to the channel if you didn't already and press on the notification bell so that you get notified along with the title as we go live. Like for example, now the title for today's topic is African Union now part of G20, American racism destroyed. And if you have any input, you can comment here. If you have any questions, you can ask here. We will love to have you as a part of the conversation. And also now we send out one dharmic message every day by WhatsApp, and you can now get it by sending a WhatsApp to +16479644790 and become the part of our one dharmic message club and get yourself and your family associated with our Sanatana Dharmic values and education system. And looking forward to seeing you all soon. Okay, Vinay ji, thank you for joining us again. Okay, welcome to Bharat Marg. And I have a question, Vinay ji. You know, G20 now taking African Union inside. See here, it was a big fanfare, Vinay ji. You know, I just want to show this to the people how bigger and because I will share a post very soon. That is the singer from White House. You know, she said, you know, thank God for Modi. Thank God for Modi, and he gave the respect to African Union it deserves for the first time ever. You know, and she was on tears when saying this. Okay, and see, it was a big fanfare and what it means. Okay, and our question is very simple, Vinayji. Okay, American and the Western racism destroyed. Okay, UN will become irrelevant soon. Please take off, Vinayji.
Yeah, I mean, like
Welcome.
it's a very interesting inclusion of the African Union. African Union comprises of pretty much all the African countries in the continent of Africa.
Mhm.
Prior to this, there were 20 members: Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union.
Mhm.
So this was the comprise, this comprised of the G20 nations, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and keep in mind that many of these countries are kind of the West dominated countries. Okay.
Mhm.
There are exceptions, of course. Indonesia, Japan, India, China are some of the countries and South Korea, of course, are not the West dominated. Turkey is kind of in the European continent, so it's kind of works kind of in the West itself. So African Union, the only country that was represented was South Africa. And Modi ji actually proposed I believe, in early part of 2023. I think it
Mhm.
was in the month of May or something. He actually proposed that African Union should become a part of G20, and it should be made a permanent member. Okay, obviously because India held the chairmanship of the G20 and represented by the Prime Minister of India. The African Union, represented by Azali Assoumani, was invited to take a seat at the table of G20 leaders as a permanent member, and that was a phenomenal historic move by Modi government. So you got to keep in mind that the African bloc, okay, comprising of many countries in Africa like Kenya, Nigeria, even I would say, like Malawi and all that, and Somalia as well. Although it's been
almost like 61 countries, right, Vinay ji?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of countries, and in the African Union, they all came together, and they are. I should say that they are completely like in seventh heaven. Okay, I'll read out some of the comments made by some of the people who actually joined the union. The G20. First of all, the AU's commission head Musa Faki Mohammed said that the move would allow the continent to make an effective contribution in helping the world meet global challenges. And this membership, for which we have long been advocating, will provide a propitious framework for amplifying advocacy in favor of the continent and its effective contribution to meeting global challenges. Okay, so this, you can imagine, was such a phenomenal, a landmark decision, I should say. Okay, now South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa was already part of G20, but he was so delighted for the rest of his neighboring countries that he said climate emergency problems can only be addressed collectively and with a great deal of solidarity. There was no representation from Africa all this while. Okay, Australia was there, Asia was there, Europe was there, North America was there, South America was there, but guess what? No
Africa was left out.
Yeah,
put that word there.
It was like Antarctica. Like Antarctica, no population, right? So they left out Antarctica and they left out Africa. Antarctica, understandable, no humans live there. So, but here, Africa, a very significant country, was left out. And now I'll tell you, Cyril Ramaphosa said access to adequate and predictable financial resources from a variety of public and private sources is critical if we are to achieve the sustainable development goals. Okay. And then Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, as a continent, we look forward to further advancing our aspirations on the global stage using the G20 platform. So this is the amount of happiness and response that
and Vinay ji, I want to show you one thing, just for the viewer to see it. See here, U.S. singer Mary Millab thanks PM, okay, for inclusion in African G20, says want to. U.S. singer who touched the Prime Minister's feet, Modi's feet, during his visit to U.S. on Saturday, expressed thanks to Prime Minister. U.S. singer Mary Miliband, right? How do you say that? Miliband. Who touched Prime Minister Modi's feet on his visit to U.S. Saturday, September 9, thanked him for inclusion of African Union as a permanent member in G20. The U.S. singer took to X, formerly Twitter, to express thanks and appreciation. PM Modi, right? I want to personally thank you for hearing my appeal. Welcome to the G20 summit, African Union, she wrote. Today, the world has witnessed compassionate and courageous leadership, a true display of brotherhood between the motherlands. This is what she is writing. Well, how do you see this?
So see, she also mentions we are now one earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Wow.
Right? she has taken the lines from Bhagavad Gita, from Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and now she is quoting this, and what Modi always
I-
talks about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And it was actually if you notice in the G20 in the
and
uh,
this is where what you said. We are now one earth, one family, one
exactly
future.
in the venue, actually he had a big poster of that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one family,
Mhm.
one earth, same thing what she just re-quoted actually. So, and then I'll also quote lastly one important thing what the Kenyan president William Ruto said. Kenya welcomes the addition of the African Union. African Union is the fastest growing continent in the world.
And it was left out.
Yeah. And it was left out. So
And how do the peoples in Africa see? One side it is China, which is spinning them into the debt cycle and strangling them. On the other side, India, Bharat, is getting the friendship extended and honoring people and getting them to their side.
I'll tell
What do
you
you?
I'll tell you something. Okay. So
Mhm.
you got to keep in mind that China has always entered these countries through the back door. Okay.
Mhm.
They do not have the guts to enter through the front door. Okay. The back door meaning, kickbacks or whatever it is. I mean, these are all countries that are very vulnerable. And then China has entered these countries, and they basically say, "Hey, here." I remember. I mean, we keep quoting Desmond Tutu every now and then, right? We you came here, and we gave you the Bible, and then you closed your eyes, and then next moment, the Bibles were in your hand and the land was in our hand. I'm probably not quoting it right, but
Right.
it's you
They
understand.
told us to close our eyes and pray. And when we opened the eyes, they had our lands and we had their Bible.
Exactly. So this is exactly what China does, right? China comes in and says, "Hey, listen, guys, you know what? We are going to invest a lot of money here, and this is going to be a huge, jobs, creation and all that kind of great for your economy and all that." So they came in and they loaned money to these many countries in Africa, and then they sent their own workers, Chinese workers. So guess what? The economy was now split. Yes, there are some African workers working there, but
The
Chinese
low
workers,
level workers.
exactly, Chinese workers came in and they took on all the responsible engineering and director and manager positions, right? And the labor positions were offered to the Africans. And then when the project was completely implemented, like dams and roads and bridges and blah blah blah, whatever, right? And China said, "Hey, look, guys, listen, you may not be able to pay this back right now, so we are going to take over this mall and or this bridge or this road or whatever, and for the next 25 years, for the next 99 years or whatever, right? And we're going to run it." Okay, and we're going to make money. Once you repay our money, whatever the loan, then we give it back to you. But guess what? This is never going to happen. The Chinese are going to control this whole economy completely. And you saw what happened in Sri Lanka. You saw what happened in many other countries in
Pakistan now.
Pakistan as well as happened. It's happening. And so this is the problem. Now, you know what? You're now totally dependent on China. China pretty much is the kind of the ruler of your country. They hold the
Mhm.
financial powers in your country, right? So now let's fast forward to the G20. What happened just a
Mhm.
couple of days ago? Okay, with the African Union's entry into the G20, and basically this was all triggered by Modi's initiative. Okay, now you got to imagine how much that opens up in terms of trade between Africa and India. Every African country will now want to do trade with India because they're going to say, "Wow, this country actually
And
got us into G20."
absolutely. But I see more than trade. Okay. I see more than trade. When Modi ji talks about one family, one world, one future, Vasudhaiva Kudumpakam, he really means it. I see more than trade this as a honor and respect to the deserving people of Africa.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I will tell you something. I mean, like, I have seen and I've collaborated with some African companies, and even helped them out in terms of consulting and whatever, right? And they are like amazing. They've got an amazing kind of technology base, and the even the knowledge base. They've got a huge
And hardworking
thing,
people.
and very hardworking people. The thing is, the problem with them is the resources and infrastructure is where they lack. Okay, because a lot of countries do not send supplies to them, and the also they have this preconceived notion about Africa, that Africa is a poverty-ridden country
No,
or
no,
continent.
it's like this simple. I see in black and white. Okay, that's how I see it. It's see you see any movies, the black person is always the villain. The black person is always the thief. The police will be white and those kind of things. So normally, even in Bharat, which is a colony of British, which was a colony, and they're
Mhm.
the same trend.
Right.
Krishna is originally black in color and they made him white
Yeah.
by making him in marble.
No, no, I'm like, yeah, this is true, because the thing is, the also the you just talked about racism as well, right? There is that people don't talk about it openly, especially in the United States, in the West, Europe, and all that stuff, because they always feel, oh, we are very, very open, freedom of expression, like the Canadian Prime Minister, right? Is that, freedom of expression, equality, equanimity, equity, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But the reality of the thing is, it was definitely racism to a certain extent, because I mean, they always consider Africa as a slave nation, because
Untouchable.
Africans came as slaves as to Europe and
No, no, they
America.
didn't come there as a slave. Let's put it. Christian missionaries
They were
brought
brought.
them
They
as
were
a
brought.
slave.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were brought as slaves,
And how
and
many generations? The women were raped, behaved, made like animals. Literally, the guest coming to the home will rape them. Those kind of things. We know their history. In fact, I want to do a video on how in Canada, okay, the blacks were used as specimen for medical testing.
exactly. I mean, you got to watch a film called 12 Years a Slave. Okay. It was starred by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and this movie will be an eye opener for many people. 12 Years a Slave. Just watch it when you have a time. When you have the time. It was based on a novel by Solomon Northrop, and it'll talk about all the stuff that happened during the slavery and all that stuff. But anyway, coming back to the present, right? So this is a huge thing. What has happened? Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a fantastic initiative by Prime Minister Modi, and I think that is going to create a huge. Like I said, trade is a very important thing. Trade also builds relationships. Okay,
Absolutely.
it's not just trade, just
Win-win. That's
financial.
what gives you win-win. Yeah.
Yeah, you sell something, I buy something. That's not the thing, right? Now the whole idea is, look at what happens now. Okay, Indians have always thought that job opportunities, future, everything is in the United States or in Europe. But now, once Africa opens up, there will be a lot of job opportunities, huge. Like, imagine, like, the big players and the small players going into Africa, for whether you want to sell tea there, or whether you want to sell big ships and airplanes or whatever, and even the defense stuff that India is now building. All that can be sold, and then this is basically, it builds a relationship and creates job opportunities. People from Africa can come to India, Indians go to Africa, and collaboration and all that stuff, right? I mean, like, huge.
I won't be surprised in the future coming days. Modi ji opens up visa and arrival for Africa. You never
Oh,
know.
certain countries, I think they will open up. I'm pretty sure, and also, you know what? university education, that's another thing. I look at the kind of scum of the earth people coming to Canada for education to these crappy colleges. Okay, the colleges that are coming up, mushrooming in Canada, for example, right? They are like they don't even
Shopping mall
offer
colleges.
proper education. They don't offer proper education. They don't have proper faculty. And these kids come from India assuming, oh, Canada is obviously a developed country, they have better colleges and stuff like that. They come here and realize they're not even worth a penny for the students to make that effort to come here. But their imagination is basically, oh, I come to Canada as a student and then maybe I can immigrate and settle down here or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
now, if that happens in Africa, Africa has some great universities. I'll tell you that, honestly. Like, fantastic universities in Africa that are really progressing. And
you have been in Europe too, right?
Yeah, I've been in Europe. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, so you have pretty good connect with Africa too.
Oh, absolutely. I like I told you, I've done some consulting work in Africa, and it's amazing actually what those guys, the amount of intelligence and knowledge base they have.
Absolutely, and it is a big thing, and it's UN will become irrelevant. What do you think about it? Because they just have their own that closed net kitchen cabinet. That's all they have.
Like let's talk about a couple of things. Okay, so there are 5 members in the United Nations, the permanent members of the Security Council. Okay, the United States, United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. Okay, now the thing with the United Nations is, like, India, after going back several years, I'm talking several decades. In fact, the permanent membership was offered to India at the time by United Nations, and Indian Prime Minister at the time, Jawaharlal Nehru, basically said, no, we are not ready for it. We don't want it. So, just offer it to China. And so the permanent membership was given to China. Okay. So that, and then ever since, nobody from the previous, ruling parties have ever sought or gone after a permanent seat in the Security Council. Nobody cared. I mean, like, you know what? Building relationship and blah, blah, blah. It's nothing big. I mean, like, look at the audacity of Congress. They sent a tweet just about a couple of days ago. Oh, G20, 20 countries, 30 countries came to India, whatever, it's not a big deal. When Indira Gandhi was the prime minister, NAM happened, the non-aligned movement, and over 100 countries, heads of 100 countries came in. And guess who she interacted with? The biggest interaction she had was with Fidel Castro of Cuba.
Who
was a non-entity.
Please, Vinay Ji, don't talk about Castro too much here. Our friend Mr. Trudeau may get upset.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, none of the big leaders even kind of, had any interaction, any trade deals, anything with her. And the only big guy who did something was Fidel Castro. Who cares about Fidel Castro?
And many say Justin Trudeau looks like Castro too. So
exactly, Cuba was a poor country, is a poor country, will remain a poor country because of the communist, way of ruling the government with the government there. Now, fast forward to G20, you'll see the difference. And then ever since Modi ji took over, BJP took over in India, that's in 2014. The kind of the desire to become a permanent member of the Security Council has been there, and they voiced their opinion and they voiced their interest and stuff like that. And although United States is in agreement, no problem. Russia is okay with it. United Kingdom is okay. France is okay. China is not okay. And for somebody to become a country to become a permanent member, you need consensus. You need all 5.
They need to have voting system. It's a very relevant. Modi ji said,
like, you know what? It's a permanent membership. It's not some. It's not a few countries vote and blah 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 whatever. This is a permanent member. 5 countries are holding it on, and you need consensus of all 5 countries. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So that's why India has not been getting into it. Now, the thing is, so Mr. Jaishankar, who is the foreign minister, and Prime Minister Modi, and of course the people inside the government here in India. So they all came together and said, "Hey, listen, why don't we do something different? Like, who cares about United Nations? United Nations is pretty much losing its significance
Teethless,
anymore."
teethless, characterless. What you call-
Exactly.
what did
Like,
they do in Ukraine? What did they do in Ukraine? Nothing.
they did nothing, and they I mean, like, come on, look at what happened during just beginning of COVID, right? They
Mhm.
kind of falsified the whole the narrative. They went to China and they said, "Oh, there's nothing, no COVID, nothing. It's all BS." And they came back and said, "Nothing. It's all good." And that's, guess what? Within 3 months, it became a pandemic, world pandemic.
And can you believe the UN ridiculed Donald Trump for banning planes from China?
Exactly. United Nations did that, and the unfortunate part was, the amount of, I mean, this global pandemic could have been avoided had United Nations, taken that initiative. And I personally hold United Nations responsible for
Yeah,
this
and
global pandemic.
they had no sense, and they lost the respect in the COVID for
They
sure.
lost the
It was a
respect. I mean,
scam organization that came
absolutely. I
out.
mean, I mean, I think it's a corrupt organization because, the people who headed the
And
WHO.
their only goal is to do change up to the liberal party, liberal wing of America or
Exactly.
anything.
They kind of appease the Chinese government, and then, maybe there were kickbacks, and who knows, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that because of that, they basically kind of low played the whole thing, and they said, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I know it's nothing."
Absolutely. Thank you, Vinay ji. Appreciate it. And guess what? Like Modi ji said, that's my last word on it. Modi ji said, exactly, UN should get its act together and know where the world is changing, and they have to change accordingly. Otherwise, they will soon will be irrelevant if they're not already.
Exactly. I'll
And I
just add
agree with
one
that.
more thing. I'll just
Uh-huh.
add one more thing just to say, United Nations has become so irrelevant that, right now you have G20, you have Quad, you have BRICS, and so many of these ASEAN and all these organizations, and they're doing very well, trade-wise,
Yes.
relationship-wise, and all that. So United Nations has become irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Absolutely. Thank you, Vinay ji. Appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Till then, Jai Jai Sri Ram. Jai Jai Sri Ram.